Before we watch, I will give a little explanation what this is about. This is your favorite half Chinese. This is going to be a series of interviews with other Chinese people living in the West. The interviews are about the effects of the increasing xenophobia, racism towards Chinese, and what it does to the Chinese population living in the West. To give insight into what this rising xenophobia and racism does towards the Chinese living in the West. If any other Chinese would like to give their story, then please let me know and we will set it up. Okay, for now let's watch this very interesting interview. This is my first one ever, so please bear with me, and if you have any suggestions that I could do better myself, then I would highly appreciate your advice. This interview will be held with Larry. He is on TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, and other social medias under the name of Jambuki888. So go ahead and follow him. And now enjoy the interview and let me know what you think of it. Leave a like and comment in the comment section, but please keep it respectful.
My name is Larry Li Xiangyu. I was born in Taiwan, Yilan, Republic of China. And I was born in 1986. In 1992, the cross-strait relations were not so good and contentious. So my grandpa was like, "Oh, we got to protect our grandchildren. Maybe we can send them off to Canada where it's more stable." And my parents paid a lot of money to do investment immigration, and that money is basically donated. And then we applied and we got to Canada. My parents were very surprised. They didn't think they would be accepted. But we immigrated to Canada in 1993. And then since then, I've been spending time in Canada and Taiwan. I came around age 7.
Age 7.
Like, in Taiwan, we calculate our age like 1 year
Earlier.
sooner, right? With the lunar calendar or whatever. So I came when I was 6 or 7. 1992. So I would have been 6 in Western years.
Yeah.
6.
So you basically grew up in Canada.
足岁跟虚岁. Yeah, I grew up in Canada. But my parents wanted me to have a link with my home. So they would take me to Taiwan every year until I was like 20. And then after that, I kept going by myself. And they made sure I learned Chinese, even though I rebelled. I did not learn Chinese well as a child, but they tried.
Neither did I. Neither did I. So how was Canada at back time? I mean, with the because of the topic.
Yeah.
How was Canada when you look at how they were looking at the Chinese people and the view on Chinese people and how they acted towards Chinese people?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to take a moment and say, I really appreciate you interviewing me and asking me about this because, the xenophobia, the anti-Asian racism, it really does affect me. And just last night, there was kind of an incident. But when I was a child in 1992 in Canada, I was one of those loud kids who wanted to say hi to everyone. Hi, strangers, right? And I felt like, I remember being very young and seeing signs. There were protests saying no more Chinese, no more Chinese. But at the same time, I also remember teachers saying like, these Chinese people, they're immigrants, we should welcome them. But and I did encounter quite a bit of racism and microaggressions, but it was more like mocking. Nothing like now with death threats and violence and hatred and vitriol. It was just mocking. And I learned to sort of laugh at that humiliation. And I was kind of a token Asian with a group of friends, and I've gone through a lot of evolutions of who I am. But yeah, back then it was just ignorance and mocking, I feel. From teachers even, they would say ignorant things. And that certainly affected me, but not the way it's affecting me now, where You know, I worry about my family's future. I worry about my parents going grocery shopping or walking on the streets, you know, especially my mom walking alone. I told her not to do that. She doesn't do that anymore. Um, yeah, the effects are great. The effects are great.
Yeah, great, but not in the great
Large.
form.
The effects are large.
Not in a really, really, yeah, let's go for it.
Not great at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not great at all.
No.
So when did you start seeing the changes in the attitude towards Chinese?
Hmm. Looking back now, I would have saw it around 2008 with Obama and Clinton's pivot to Asia. And if I look back at an email from one of my close friends back then, you know, she was sending me emails like, you know, aren't you afraid China's going to take over Taiwan? Like, you know, are you going to go fight for your country? And at that time, I was like, I don't even remember reading that. I just kind of laughed at it because I didn't take it seriously. But I saw that the people are already being seeded with this sort of manufacturing for consent. And, you know, I recognize that around 2008, my good friends started to make some, you know, anti-Chinese comments, but I didn't really realize it. And then the Hong Kong protests came, you know, Guangfu Xianggang and the free Hong Kong and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
How do you free Hong Kong from its colonizers? And it was we're China freed Hong Kong, right? But
Yeah.
but I at that time I was still quite pro West, right? I grew up mostly in the West. I visited Taiwan, you know, once a year, and I hadn't been to China yet. I went to China in 2017, 2018, right before the pandemic. So I noticed that my friends who I respected and who I felt had critical thinking suddenly had a mob mentality when it came to China and Hong Kong. And that made me look for nuance. You know, when I notice people are being very adamant and one-sided, and I see the mob mentality, I go, what's going on? And my parents always taught that, you know, we are Chinese. We're from Taiwan, but we're proud Chinese. We write traditional Chinese script, right?
So,
we eat Chinese food. Oh, wait, go ahead.
so your parents did not say you are Taiwanese.
Well, you know, they would sometimes say, well, Mr. Taiwanzen, you know, we are Taiwan people, but they would also say we are Chinese people. And I remember one time I was picking up some Chinese food, and the chef, the person helping me, asked me, "Oh, where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Taiwan. I said, "I'm a Taiwan person," and he says, "So you're Chinese?" And I go, "Oh yeah, yeah, I am." So
Yeah.
so I kind of dealt with that ambiguity when I was young.
So it started in 2008. What was the
I feel like, yeah,
yeah,
that's when I noticed the change in society for sure. The pivot to Asia.
but did it affect you back then, or it was still bearable?
It didn't affect me consciously, but looking back, you know, certain things that I experienced, you know, in my job, in my career. I used to do public speaking with meditation and stuff. And I sometimes wonder if there was a bamboo ceiling effect or a racism effect there, because I was certainly passed up for opportunities, and those opportunities were given to people with blonde hair and blue eyes, and they had less experience than me, much less experience than me. But I can't prove that was a racist thing. But you know, it makes you think. It makes you think.
Yeah. And so what made you start to post these videos about the things what is going on with China and a lot of about Taiwan that you are also posting?
Well, you know, it's a lot of factors. The first video I ever made, I had a mask on, and that was, I think, 2019 at the height of the pandemic, when we were seeing video clips of elderly Chinese people being attacked on the streets and women being attacked. You know, the most vulnerable people being attacked.
Yeah.
And I started feeling like maybe I should speak up. but I didn't want to speak up because my grandparents grew up in Japanese colonialism in Taiwan under the White Terror. My parents also remember the effects of that. So they always told me to keep my mouth shut. Keep your mouth shut. Don't attract any attention. They said that, the DPP government in Taiwan, they monitor the chat apps. They monitor everything. They'll come after our family business and hit us with, nonsense and make us shut down. So Larry, do not speak up. Don't speak up. So I spoke up anonymously at first, but then, and I deleted my first TikTok account once my dad found it, and I listened to my dad a lot because I had a bit of a traumatic relationship with him. So I listened to him a lot, but after speaking out, I realized I have to stop listening to him and I have to follow my heart, because I felt like what I was doing was right. And I felt like it was having some effect on Taiwanese people. Some Taiwanese Chinese people would be like, oh, you know what? You're right. I've never seen this stuff you're showing me, stuff about the Uyghurs, about Hong Kong. I really thought mainland China was evil. I thought they really wanted to hurt us, and so I kept being motivated by those experiences to continue speaking out. Yeah. And then the more I spoke out, the more I saw how hard America was trying to make China look as bad as possible. Right? There's even that clip of that female reporter, I think from CNN, right? We're gonna make China look as bad as possible.
And where do you see the break?
If you look at those three phrases that the secretary used, competitive when it should be, collaborative when it can be, adversarial where it must be, I would say it's 2/3 similar to what the Trump folks were using. They were adversarial and they were competitive. That was the fundamental kind of where they landed, I guess, at the end of their administration when it came to their framing on China. We're going to take them on. We can't afford to work with them on anything. We're going to use all the rhetoric we have to make them look like the bad guys.
So those things make me speak out and make me keep speaking out. One last thing, I work in mental health. I worked a lot in mental health in the past. And so I'm passionate about people, about humans. So when they were claiming that China is genociding Uyghurs, I had to look into it. I had to look deep into it to see what the heck is going on, right? Media doesn't talk about the terrorist incidences. They just paint a one-sided picture of China. And it was so unfair that I just had to speak up.
Yeah. So how does it affect all the Sinophobia? How does it affect the Taiwanese people living in the United States and Canada? Because I can imagine that a lot of
it's certainly a mixed bag. I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is you have this generation of older Chinese people who grew up under KMT. And KMT that time was staunchly anti-mainland China, and they will say, just the same propaganda we hear today. Basically, mainland China is inhumane, they're evil, they'll do anything to hurt you, control you, blah blah blah. So I think those people, they probably represent a good 20% of the Taiwanese voters, And if you interview them, they'll say, we must elect DPP. If William Lai doesn't win in 2024, Taiwan is gone. China will take, Taiwan is gone. China will destroy us. China will will destroy all of our business, and we won't even be able to feed our families. So you have a good 20% of Taiwanese people who believe that, the older generation who are deep blue, deep KMT, and then you have a good 20% who are Taiwanese independent supporters, deep green. Young people, especially university students, they get targeted by the DPP. But then the university students age and then they realize they were lied to. So your question was, how does it affect the Taiwanese people? Yeah, it makes Taiwan
in Canada and in
chaotic. In Canada?
Yeah, in Canada or the United States. I mean, because they look and are the same like Chinese. So you know, when they when they're I can assume like if they're Americans or Canadians and then start to bash on Chinese people, and maybe in the case of defending Taiwan, attacking a Chinese people, which might be actually a Chinese from Taiwan, because they don't see the difference, right?
Yeah, no, no. I think, you know, in today's day and age, when people are struggling to pay their bills and economy is struggling, inflation, that only makes these things worse. You know, people lump people together in a group, and yeah, people can't tell. I'm not sure if I missed your question, but people can't tell the difference between Taiwanese and mainland Chinese, and
Yeah.
even people from Thailand or Vietnam, right?
So if
Um,
something bad, you know, maybe attack them or cursing them on the street, right? It might be also somebody from Taiwan,
yeah, for sure.
which they consider as a friend.
Right. I mean, you had that
So
Japanese diplomat who was attacked in America recently, right?
no,
It was like a week ago, I think.
really,
And
I haven't seen it.
yeah. I'm pretty sure it's not fake news. Japanese diplomat was attacked in America on the streets.
So how do these how do you feel about because you speak a lot about it and you're trying to clarify the situation.
Hmm.
Now you are from Taiwan and you go a lot of times. I see you go back and forth,
Yeah.
so you are up to date. And then you have people who are not Chinese, never been to China, probably don't even have a Chinese friend, and certainly don't speak the language, are arguing with you and calling you all sorts of things because you want to explain what is going on. What kind of effect does it have? I mean, like, what's going through your mind if somebody
uh,
is attacking you like that? Well, you know,
it changes you over time. At first, you try to laugh at it, or you just say, "Oh, they're ignorant," but it changes you over time. Um, Maybe not everyone's affected the same way. I know that for sure, but I'm very sensitive, and I have a very strong memory, so it's hard for me to forget things. You
yeah,
know, I'm not trying to compliment myself. You know, sometimes having a strong memory can be a curse. You know, you keep seeing things you don't want to see, and you know, I really tried to be empathetic to the propagandized people, right? Um, like like uh, like an American politician recently said, a lot of Americans are heavily propagandized, and they have a comic book worldview. And you know, their parents, you know, the boomers, they probably put a lot of faith in the mainstream media. And like you said, they don't speak Chinese, they don't have a Chinese friend. So these people might be very critical of the Democrats or the Republicans, but when it comes to anything China, it's just like, tell me, overlord, what's going on in China, and I believe you 100%. Right? There's no, the critical thinking is suddenly shut off. It's like a blind spot. So it reminds me of me online in another chat room once, and I simply said, "Hey, Taiwan's official name is Republic of China, and it says so on my passport," and I got banned and muted. Right? A chat room of over 1,000 people. This happened, I think, a few years ago. So what effect does it have on me? It makes me feel defeated at the end of the day, because I can see that it's a giant mob of people who believe that thing. And, you know, I feel sometimes like I'm shouting into the wind. But I do know that what I say does affect people slowly. You know, some people hear me and they check it out. So that's enough for me to keep going. But it's tough. I mean, some days I wake up feeling quite a little bit depressed, you know, and I remember that statistic I read yesterday from a study. You know, 72% of Chinese scientists in America feel unsafe. and they modify their behavior and censor themselves because they don't want to be targeted. You know, they feel they're doing innocent science, but anything these days might be said that you are working for China somehow. So they just completely censor themselves and make themselves safe. And I'm starting to feel that more and more. I refused to censor myself growing up. Refused to censor myself. You know, teachers hated me. But now that I have a family, I do see, oh, I have to be careful a bit. I have to be careful a bit. And I have to consider what is the best place for myself and my family in the next 5 to 10 years. So these are questions that I wouldn't have asked when I was 15, 25, when I was really pro-West.
So basically, you are saying you actually do not feel really safe anymore.
No, at the end of the day, I don't feel safe here anymore. It's true.
How do you cope with that in daily life? Because
苦笑, bitter laughter, and meditation, and people like you, Mr. Fong. You know, like honestly, I remember feeling so alone before I discovered the TikTok community, and now that this community is also a bit on Twitter. I remember making that first video with the mask, and I was talking about the propaganda I saw in Hong Kong and Xinjiang. And basically all of my friends that I grew up with they were either indifferent or they called me a tanky, basically, or, you know, loyal to the CCP, or even though I've known them for like 20 years, went camping with them, you know, met their parents, slept over at their house, they slept over at my house. But when it came to China, it was like, no, we do not want to hear about it. We don't want to hear about your truth. And at best, we're indifferent. At worst, we're hostile. So I lost a lot of friends. And I wasn't willing to censor myself anymore. And I coped by looking for new connections. Honestly, I know I don't know you very well. I don't know, you know, my followers very well, but it is in a sense you are family to me, because I can speak my truth to you and I can feel safe and I can discuss, you know. And I think I've noticed that people like you, like I've noticed lots of Chinese Buddhists who really, because Buddhists are truth seekers, right?
yes.
So we want to find out, what is the truth? What is the truth here? What is going on?
We should be truth seekers.
Yeah.
We should be, right?
We should be, yeah.
It's what Buddha said, right?
Yeah.
Do not take my word.
That's right.
It, and when you think it is okay, then you can trust my words, right?
That's right. That's right.
Something in those lines. Not exactly. I'm not quoting him, but
yeah, the Kalama Sutras, you know,
yeah.
Recognize things through your own critical thought. So yeah, you help me cope too, you know, Mr. Fong. When I see your videos and I watch them, I cope knowing that I'm not alone. I'm not alone.
Yeah, you're definitely not alone, and that is also why I want to show this also for other people, to let them also know that they're not the only one going through this, right? So maybe they can feel a little bit better and will also not be afraid to speak up, because I think that speaking up is a must.
Yeah.
If we keep silent, I understand the Chinese mentality has always been, you know, keep silent, make your money, and become a boss. That's it.
That's right. That's right.
Become a bigger person, right?
That's right.
But it's not gonna change. It's going to be worse and worse, right?
In this day and age, I think we need to speak up. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I also lost my friends, or not really friends, of course, but yeah, I don't consider it as a loss. I mean, when I go to the bar, I save a couple of bucks because I don't need to give them beers. So I don't see
I should look at things that way too.
Yeah.
I should look at things that way too.
How is it with the Chinese community in Canada? Do they have the same feelings like you, like feeling not that safe, or do you still feel, and as also the people who born there, right?
Yeah.
Are they viewed like a Canadian, or are they viewed like not Canadian?
Okay, so you're asking me if Taiwanese people in Canada feel Canadian?
No, I mean, are they viewed as Canadian or not? You know, the ones that are born there.
Okay. The Taiwanese Chinese people born in Canada, how are they viewed?
Yeah.
I see. I guess for me, this is theory based on what I've seen and heard. I think you have a 30% of Canadians who are very tolerant and will say, they are Canadian. But sadly I would have to say I think a majority of Canadians deep down will have suspicions and will ask, where are you really from? Do you have links to Taiwan and China? They'll ask these questions. They might have some fears inside. And then the phrase paper Canadian also comes to my head. Someone might call them Mr. Someone might call them paper Canadian. So even though they're born there, I think they would still get some xenophobia and racism. Yeah, like my wife was just saying, if our daughter, who's half Chinese, half Romanian, if our daughter gets discriminated here, she's not going to be able to handle it. She's not going to be able to take it. So we are figuring out where is the best for us in the future. I have to go to Taiwan again next year anyways for some family stuff. So we're gonna go check it out and see how it is.
But then it's
my wife's afraid to go to Taiwan now too, because she thinks there might be hot conflict, kinetic warfare. So
yeah.
She wants to wait until after the election.
Yeah. So I have to ask this question again.
Sure.
How all that negative news, every time when it comes to you, when you want to look for something or you open the internet, how it affects you?
It affects me very negatively because I used to be a fanboy of Google. I followed that company from the start. And now I know that the search is not neutral. There's algorithms behind it. And it makes me feel very defeated once again, because the things I used to love are not what they are. And for me, there's a imperial racist aspect to it, right? A Caucasian person from Canada might go, oh, Google is not what it used to be, kind of sucks. But for me, it's like, it's actually a danger, maybe, because like you said, you Googled US imperialism and the result came up Chinese Uyghurs, right? So there is a concerted effort to smear China, to manufacture consent for conflict. And this affects Asian diaspora, of course, right? I mean, it's since what? Since 2008, the hate crimes just go up, right? Even though some of them don't get reported as hate crimes, they just keep going up. The statistics keep getting worse and worse. We keep seeing video clips constantly of Asians being harassed or attacked.
What does it do to you when you see something like that happen? Like other Asians
It's
being
very
attacked?
challenging. It's very challenging as a meditator and as a Buddhist. It's very challenging to maintain that meditative mindset. It's very challenging because when you meditate, what you see is the hatred. What you hear is the hatred. And then you have to go, that's humanity. That's, I have to be understanding. I still have to take care of my family. I have to think about what is best. What is best for me? What is the future? What am I going to do? My actions. So it completely stains the mind. It stains the spirit. It makes us tired. So no wonder brilliant minds are going back to China. No wonder scientists are self-censoring or going back to China. Anyone with a critical thought, in my opinion, is thinking what I'm thinking. The America pivoted from Islamophobia to yellow peril really, really fast, and it's scary fast. It's scary fast.
And again, the question, because I didn't record it, how you feel, if you still feel accepted in society,
No, I don't.
and a part of society.
Yeah, I feel a part of society in the sense that I really try to be a part of it. But for me, my experiences in Canada, out of 10 people, 3 people will really tolerate me and talk to me in good faith. 7 people will have some racist undertones, veiled racism, propagandized beliefs, closed minds. I can't talk to them. So yeah, I'm very careful. You know, I had a job interview like 6 months ago, and I remember telling myself, you know, do not mention anything political, because I like to, right? I'm a political person. I follow the news. I follow the news as much as I can and as many sources as I can. But when it came to talking to a potential employer, I was like, you know, I better not say anything at all, nothing at all, because even speaking something neutral about China will get you labeled as a commie sympathizer or a tanky or a traitor to your country. So nothing. I shut my mouth.
Yes, I even had people asking me, why did you say something positive about China?
How dare you? Yeah, how dare
Exactly,
you?
exactly like this. Why did you say something positive about China? And I was like, why do I need to say something negative?
That's right. That's right.
It's it's still in my mind. It's still
Right.
in my
It
mind.
sticks with you. Absolutely, it
Yeah.
sticks with you because they're asking you like, hey, don't you think you're on the wrong team? Like your behavior, this is not tolerable behavior, right? If you keep talking like that, I'm going to report you and take you to the camp, the internment camp. And that's my wild imagination 10 years into the future if this continues, you know?
Yeah. Let's see. So you don't feel really at home anymore in society, and earlier you also said, talked about, you always need to censor to who you're talking about, to
Yes.
be very sensitive, otherwise
Yes.
conflict may happen.
Yes.
But sometimes you just want to say something, and when
Yeah.
when you cannot,
Can't hold it in anymore.
so you walk away. But how is it for you mentally? Because you might not agree, but you just cannot say something because something something big will come big out of it.
Yeah, well, I had Dr. Gabor Mate here um at my office in Vancouver, and I did meditation and energy work with him. And he's a very well-known mental health expert, right? Dr. Gabor Mate. And it makes me think of him and his message that repression causes sickness. Repression of stress, repression of anger, it causes sickness, whether physical or mental. And I tell myself I gotta get out of here. I gotta find a place where I don't have to repress myself constantly, because I'm gonna lose it. I'm not used to censoring myself. I'm not used to living this way. I'm a hot. People called me a hothead growing up. You know, I got into meditation to cool my head.
Yeah,
To
I was a very hothead also. There are many Chinatowns where they still will know me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had a lot of fights. It is really fortunate for the mainstream media that I found Buddhism and knew how to calm myself down. Otherwise, it would be a real big problem right now. Anyway, I still got 10 minutes on this one. I can reopen another one. If not, then I would like to ask the last question.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. My family will need me soon, so we'll have to wrap up this
So
time.
then, what do you think should change to make it better for everybody, especially in the West? Because we're talking about the Chinese people and the Asian people in the West, living in the West, having to
Yeah.
go through this. What could we change?
Well, I don't know if I'm naive. I probably am. But I think if Biden was not in office and if the DPP was not in office, there would be a huge change in the political landscape. And if all of this sort of very extreme reporting and biased media stops, maybe we can resume like cultural exchange and cooperative dialogue like we saw in the Ma Ying-jeou era around 2006, you know. And I go on Twitter Spaces a lot, and I listen to people from Europe, from Africa, from America, and the desire for peace and cooperation is there. I think most people want cooperation and peace. Americans too. I think lots of Americans want cooperation and peace. You know, they're just heavily propagandized. So if maybe China could up its soft power presentation a bit more, like really show the world what you're doing with your infrastructure and building schools and building bridges, and really, you know, hire some young people to speak to the young people of these international countries, these G7 countries. You know, I mean, I'm seeing that a bit in Taiwan with the Taiwanese youth who end up going to China, you know, and there is pro-China media in Taiwan on YouTube, even though they're heavily censored and attacked. But it exists, and I see that shift. And Taiwan as an island of 23 million can shift very fast psychologically. So I think it'll take a lot of stars aligning. You know, there's a pathway to peace and there's a pathway to more conflict and war. And I suppose it's up to the people to wake up. I mean, I'm talking about Taiwan. People need to just wake up. So I don't know.
But
I don't know. I have a lot of hope and theories. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
How about in the West? What could we do to live more harmonious? Because I see the Chinese community and the Western community is drifting apart actually right now. At least in the
For
Netherlands,
sure.
it's more
For sure.
more and more Chinese who actually were very, very Westernized, just it's third generation or something, are now actually steering away from the Western society, which is also not good, obviously, because they're born here and living here, and their parents too. So what is it in society that we can change as a whole to, you know, live comfortably with each other?
Yeah, the way it's going, it's certainly a lose-lose situation, right? And I think as life becomes more difficult, people either find someone to blame or they try to find healing in communication. And I think what the latter is very hard. And so, you know, America needs to take care of its own people. America needs to take care of its own economy, its mental health, its veterans, its homeless. You need to take care of those downtrodden people. And then you can start, you know, as the economy improves, then these social factors can improve. But if they keep making decisions that hurt the economy and hurt society at large, then you could argue they're trying to brew conflict, right? The military-industrial complex can potentially save America at the cost of American citizens. I don't know if that's I don't know if I'm being very cynical or I'm just talking out of my butt, but I think that is my theory. That is my truth.
So essentially, at what cost? Which
At
is
what cost?
It's quite funny because a lot of times they use it for China,
Yes,
China
yes.
propaganda, right?
Yes, everything has that.
They
Yeah,
do
well, if
this,
you
but
add that to the
at
end,
what cost? It's funny
yes,
that
yes.
you
If you add that to the end, you
use
switch the sentence.
and also, where can people find you? And
Oh, where can people find me?
yeah,
My username is. Oh, thank you.
also
My username is Jambuki888. MBUKI888 on TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. Thank
All right.
you.
It's the same like your TikTok is that, right? So I
Yeah.
can also
yeah.
copy that, and then I will paste it also in the whole video.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fong. This was really great. This was really, really great.
So I'm trying to do more of these.
Yeah, man.
Hope if
Anytime you want me,
other Asians
let me
see it
know.
and they feel inspired, they can join, and we can at least show the other people like what it is actually doing, so maybe they can be a little bit more mindful, right?
Sounds great. I love that. I love that so much. Yeah.
Yeah,
Call on
because
me anytime. I'm at your service.
well, thank you for joining. You're
Thank
the
you.
first
Thank
one. You're the very first one from Taiwan.
Thank you. Thank
So,
you.
and everybody go follow Larry. And yeah, I think
And thank
we
you. Thank you,
covered it
Mr.
all. I'm sorry for my mistake for not recording. I think I made a mistake because I quit the recording in the first session. And
I
then,
don't mind at all.
yeah,
I think my answers could have used a second run, so it's good. It's good.
yeah.
I appreciate everything you do, Mr. Fong.
Well, you too. You're great,
Awesome.
great inspiration for me.
Oh, you too. You too. It's good. We inspire each other then. Positive energy.
Yes, it's a hard job, but in the end, I think it's very satisfying. Also, sometimes you get one of the best comments was somebody, a Chinese from Australia, and he was born there, and he said he sent a message to my inbox, and he said, "Thank you, Mr. Fong. Thanks to you, I am proud to feel Chinese again," and that really struck my heart, and was also very painful, as beautiful as it is, also very painful for me to read, because it means that because of all these kind of things, a lot of people are just not proud anymore for who they are, while they should be, right? They have, so that's why I was thinking about what can I do. So I thought, I might start to interview people and put it out there.
That's great. I
So,
think that's great. I
yeah.
thank you for sharing that. That's great, man. I feel you. I feel you.
All right.
All right,
Thank
man.
you.
Thanks again. Thank you. Take care for now. See you.
You
See
too. Thank you,
see you soon.
Larry. Thank you very
Bye
much.
bye.
Bye bye.